Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's latest Netflix series, Polo, has hit the screens with a thud, leaving critics and viewers alike unimpressed. Despite the high hopes and the couple's star power, the series has been labeled as a tedious and boring look at the elite sport of polo. Let's dive into why this series has failed to capture the audience's interest and what went wrong. The reviews are in for Prince Harry and Meghan's latest Netflix endeavor, Polo, the latest installment of their £80 million deal with the streaming service. Despite the likely high hopes that this would join the ranks of great sports documentaries such as Disney Plus's Welcome to Wrexham and 2020's The Last Dance, the series has been panned by critics. Receiving 2 stars or less out of 5 across the board, the 5-part show has been labeled a tedious inside look at posh polo and a mostly boring look at a sport that very few people outside of elite circles have any particular interest in. For The Guardian's Stuart Heritage, who awarded the series just 2 stars, Polo looks destined to fall through the submenus into obscurity at the speed of light. The Telegraph's Ed Power, meanwhile, noted how there was not enough of the Sussexes to make this anything other than a dull indulgence about a rich person's pursuit. After the Duke of Sussex caused a storm with his bombshell Netflix documentary released in December 2022 that took aim at his own family, he cuts a surprisingly low-key figure in the show, which was released on Monday. The Prince, 40, only appears a handful of times throughout the 5 episodes, with his wife Meghan, 43, appearing even less despite both being executive producers of the series. Harry appears in the opening credits of the show but doesn't appear again until episode 4, when he is only part of a conversation with the other players. The Telegraph's Ed Power noted in his 2-star review of Polo, the bafflingly little appearance of the Prince in his own series. Netflix and Archwell team up for a tedious inside look at posh polo, and for once, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex don't hog the limelight, claimed the critic. He concluded, "There's lots of blood, sweat, and tears in the series, but not enough of the Sussexes to make this anything other than a dull indulgence about a rich person's pursuit." Meanwhile, Decider urged viewers to skip the series in its review, claiming, "Polo is a mostly boring look at a sport that very few people outside of elite circles have any particular interest in." Critic Joel Keller insisted, "The first episode was tough to connect with, because it presents a world that not only isn't very relatable to most people, but is boring to boot." However, the writer did admit that if you want to find out about the nuts and bolts of the game of polo, then Polo should be an interesting watch. The Guardian labeled polo the stupidest, most obnoxious sport known to humanity and a playground of the rich. Critic Stuart Heritage said, "Mainly, though, polo looks destined to fall through the submenus into obscurity at the speed of light." And rightly so. It's clattering and niche, and feels like a spoof documentary designed to play on screens in the background of episodes of Succession. The end of the final season goes out of its way to tee up a sequel, but I really don't think any of us deserve that. It wasn't just critics who were left unimpressed by the 5-part series, with some viewers also labeling Netflix's Polo boring. One person wrote on X, "Polo is one of the most boring series ever on Netflix," while another individual added, "Polo is 5 hours no one can get back, boring." Another said, "Okay, I am done. I can't watch this anymore. It's too painfully boring. How they play polo with all the other sports available is beyond me. Horse racing would be more interesting." But it wasn't all bad reviews from viewers, with some insisting the show had them hooked, with one person writing, "Watched all 5 episodes in one sitting. Couldn't pause even if I wanted to. Great job and well done to everyone involved." The program goes behind the scenes of professional polo, offering an unprecedented look into the players' lives on and off the field. Speaking to People magazine previously, Harry said, "This series offers audiences an unprecedented, behind-the-scenes look into the passion and determination driving some of the world's elite polo players, revealing the grit behind the glamour. We're proud to showcase the true depth and spirit of the sport, and the intensity of its high-stakes moments." Another Christmas, another creative offering from Harry and Meghan, those titans of television, forever beavering away in their Montecito mansion. 2 years ago, we had the 6-part Harry and Meghan miniseries, the first program of their $100 million Netflix deal, from which they promised to produce content that informs but also gives hope through a truthful and relatable lens. Since then, we've had one decent documentary about Harry's Invictus Games and another, less good, about leadership. Their $20 million Archetypes podcast for Spotify was scrapped in 2023 after just 13 episodes. And despite a lot of talk about a Meghan cookery program, there is still no show. But none of that has dampened their spirits. Because now they bring us Polo. Not, sadly, the next series of the brilliantly naughty adaptation of Dame Jilly Cooper's Ruts Higher Rompathon, courtesy of Disney+. But instead a 5-part docu-series about the breathtakingly elite world of polo, which will pull the curtain back on the grit and passion of the sport. To be fair, in the opening moments it does promise rather a lot. That we're going to enjoy one of the most thrilling sports you can imagine. Full of dirty, sweaty, sexy boys, riding, a lot of drama and tension, and a man in a fuchsia pink polo shirt smashing up a cool box with his polo stick in a rage. Perfect for a wet Wednesday in London. You'd think. The drama centers around the build-up to the World Cup in Florida, where a lot of very slim women with very smooth faces and less smooth necks will cheer on muscular menfolk who take it all very seriously indeed. Our life is on the line every time we get out there, says one polo player, as if he's a fireman or a marine, or perhaps a disaster relief worker. Polo is not just a sport. Polo is a lifestyle. We eat, we breathe, we sleep polo, cries another. And they clearly work hard at it, because they're all wonderfully ripped and muscled, with astonishingly white teeth, strong forearms, very expensive watches, Louis Vuitton holdalls and chests like brick walls. We see them lift weights and skydive and go deep-sea fishing and drive expensive cars with lovely leather interiors as dramatic music swirls. And we learn that Tim Dutta, 22, is a sweet boy who is funded by his overbearing dad, who is always shouting we're here for one thing and that's to win, and spoiled by his mom. But at least he seems to really love his horses. That Adolfo Cambiaso, from Argentina, is the Michael Jordan of polo. And that Louis de Valeix, the loathsome patron and player of a team called La Fe, is the cool box smasher, and also has biceps as big as hams, a nasty temper, a pregnant wife, and doesn't seem to care much about his ponies. I don't even know what my horses' names are, he says. It seems odd that executive producers Harry and Meghan were so desperate to share this ghastly world with the rest of us. But despite criticism that the sport is ferociously elitist, a carbon disaster and not always very nice for the poor ponies, don't get PETA started. For goodness sake, Meghan is said to adore the whole polo scene. And according to his best mate and fellow polo player, Nacho Figueras, it has always been Harry's dream and passion to share with the world what it takes to be a really competitive polo player. Though, sadly, not in person. Because while they were very hands-on in the making, they are not really in it other than Harry's 5-second cameo in the 3rd minute and a brief appearance in episode 5. But their ridiculous polo pals do their best to make up for that, explaining to us novices that there are 4 in a team, 6.5-minute chukkas, periods of play, to a game, and that riders change horses like Formula 1 drivers. And strutting about in tight trousers, popping confetti-filled balloons to choose fixtures, flashing their naked chests and piping up with ridiculous comments such as "Polo gives me hope that I can accomplish something and he was handmade by God to play polo." Awful though it all is, I wonder whether, in the right hands, it could have been fun, guilty pleasure TV, a sort of brilliant mashup of Rivals, Selling Sunset, and Made in Wrexham, that made us shout the telly in horrified joy. Instead, somehow, it is flat, plotting, and really rather boring. And if it tried, it couldn't be any further from content that informs but also gives hope.